Oh, there it is. It says we are live. Hello, everybody. We have a lot of invites out. We're hoping some more of our friends will join us. Thank you for the Tuesday edition of Old Gray Bricks the Monday editions on Tuesday of we're doing the Lego Post Show for Julian since he's taking a little bit of a internet vacation. So we are going to cover the show for him. So we have a lot of our friends with invitations out. So they'll come in. So I do have Matt and Rich with me so far. Hopefully we'll even have some Lego Masters joining us as the evening goes on. I thought for an episode it was quite excellent.
Yep.
I think the challenge was an excellent challenge, and all that kind of stuff. So we can start with that, and hopefully when our some more friends hop in here, if they are able to, we'll talk with them too. But y'all talk about the challenge itself. Do you think it was a good challenge? What was y'all's opinion of the challenge?
I loved it myself. Go ahead, Rich.
No, I wanted you to, fawn all over it.
I would say that it was interesting in that it was like a mashup, really. It was a technical challenge and a castle challenge. And I thought that, Zach and Wayne nailed the technical, and that's why they advanced. And I actually thought Mark and Steven's castle was not as good as I expected. I had high expectations, and I don't think the judges were wrong in picking the twins over them. So, and I will say that I actually thought the ladies' build was cute and colorful. It just wasn't a castle, in my opinion, and I think it was right to send them home. So I thought the judging was right. The other thing is there was a lot less shtick and a lot more building. And that's one of the reasons I really like this episode. Like the focus was on the build and the builders and a lot less on antics and that kind of stuff. So I was very pleased.
I thought it was very interesting that Jamie commented that the team that had the best technical production and the longest design, which automatically put them in the top, said that they missed an opportunity connecting more studs. I mean, you did more technical with less material to create a greater item. What the heck?
Well, I was going to talk about their build was a little bit of a mixed bag. It was an amazing building. The rock work to cover up the Technic was steady, but it was, it wasn't distracting to me. The red part, the bridge, was just straight brick, and I was like, that bothered me a little bit. But so aesthetically, it wasn't as good on the bridge part, but the castle that was sitting in the middle, which they were brave to shove that out, was a pretty amazing, pretty neat accomplishment. It showed off the technical ability that they had. They were able to cover it up, and they went ahead and risked to get it the length to get into the final and everything.
Yeah, and they put their weight in the middle or close to the middle as opposed to keeping it on the wall.
But except for except for their building on top, which was amazing, theirs was the least aesthetically pleasing to me. And yes, I would have just stuck some gray brick on those yellow studs. I don't know if they left those exposed just to go, hey, we didn't even use them all. Look at there, or what?
I would have put some gray brick on them to make them look like rock projections. But okay, I too thought that based on the rules, the judging was done all the way correctly. I thought, hey, they already put it out there. Longest projection wins first spot, and then we'll judge everything afterwards. I thought Caleb and Jacob did a really great job with the bent bridge thing and the nice story with the joust. And Stephen and Mark, though it was a fantastic build, just edged behind them, the two. And and Natalie and Michelle, they are great builders. I'm not gonna lie. I think they did a great job in what they did. It just was just off enough.
I wonder if they had a minimum length to get to, and they didn't talk about that in the show, and that was almost a disqualifier. I wonder if you had to get at least 3 feet, and they didn't get that far at all. But I mean, I don't know. There's been those sort of things in there. Hey, Jesse, how are you today?
I'm good. Yeah, that's always one of those unspoken rules, right? How far out do you need to at least try? At when they're down to 4 teams and they're rewarding the first, the furthest out. I don't know. I don't know if there was a requirement, but they've definitely had those unaired, I guess, rules.
Maddie didn't watch. No spoilers. Hey, Maddie, somebody went home. Spoiler alert. Okay.
Somebody went home. We're down to the finale.
So to follow up on what Rich said, typically on these kind of these talent shows, right? Especially talent shows where people make stuff. So like I have also watched Project Runway and that kind of stuff where people have to make an outfit, design and create an outfit. The 2 biggest things that get people in trouble is not doing what they're supposed to do and running out of time. And Zach and Wayne, to their full credit, executed exactly what they drew up at the beginning, and they did it, and they did it exactly what they wanted to do. Who cares that they left 4 studs sticking out? Like, that was not the brief. The brief was not use every stud on the wall. The brief was build the longest, which they did, and build a castle, which they did. Who cares if they don't use the studs?
Once they said that, I was like, ooh, yeah, there are some yellow bricks just sitting there.
They didn't run out of time. They nailed it, or at least they nailed half of the challenge. So why I rolled my eyes so hard when he said that. I was like, what does that matter? So.
Well, could you have just built a Technic stick that sits out like 8 feet from that wall and just and made a pass? I mean, what was the criteria for what stuck out there? Did it have to be a certain width? I mean, hopefully maybe one of the guys will drop in.
I think it's a 2-part thing there. It has to be a castle. And if you make it the longest, then that gets you the thing.
Yeah.
If you just stuck Technic out to the farthest reaches, you may have won the one part of it, but if there's no castle associated with it.
Hey, dude, what's up? Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about the Castle Bros competition, which I thought was really fun with the show. I mean, and we know, talking to Mark and Steven, that quote unquote rivalry is not real. They're goofing with each other, and it's a friendly thing and everything. I think it's great. I think it's great that the brothers actually made it. We kind of predicted that early in this. We said the brothers are going to have an advantage over everybody because if they're builders together, they communicate the same language, and all they have to do is point at something, and the other one kind of knows what to do. So the 3 sets of brothers made it into the final, and that's great. That'll be a great challenge to see. But I wonder how much of that was more just played up, the Castle Bro name, or was that just a little bit that they played, or were they fairly serious about it? What do y'all think?
I think it was nice. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a joke, but they spent time on air actually. Jamie comes back with a scroll in the night outfit. I was hoping there was going to be like a 20-foot long scroll and would like roll across the ground with a bunch of disclaimers on it, and they would have to sign their life away.
Yeah, go all the way to the very, very, very end of it and sign.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, wait a minute.
All I know is that I've got a castle book from Steven, and now it's worthless.
You want your money back? Castle Boy didn't come through. So. Okay, everybody in our chat over here on the side is like, it hasn't aired here. I will get to watch it at the end of the week.
What are you doing on here? Get out of here.
I'm going to tell
It's
you
funny.
spoilers in a minute.
Half
So
the
watch this
country
count
gets to
go
watch
down
it
here.
early, and then the other half of the country has to wait.
If you don't want spoilers, why would you tune into a post-show
I know.
show? Like,
I know.
I do that every week.
Crazy
I do
people.
that every week.
All right, so let's go through the builds. Let's start with the girls. We've talked about it, but let's just get into it. Now, by the way, I wonder if I know that to continue this story that some of them built at the bottom, and I wonder if that was a requirement that the bottom, the water or whatever,
Bonus points.
filter
I
into
thought.
the story.
Bonus points. Mark and
Yeah.
Steven had the little ships in there, so I give them bonus points.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree. They had a lot of that going on. But let's talk with the girls. The girls had that nice big box at the bottom. They had the boxes, which were amazing. They had the writing in there. The Crayola. Jake, my son, was watching with me. He was like, they have the Crayola crayon markers in there. It's really good. So they built character and built those structures without Technic very well. Then when it came to the Technic length part, that's where it fell apart on them. Why do you think that failed on them?
They're just not used to doing it.
Time.
They were unfamiliar with the constraints that they created for themselves. If you're going to do Technic, you should have been well versed in the Technic.
Yeah, they also didn't build on the. Hey, Doc Sampson. They did not build on the board and figure out their support first. They started building boxes and everything and have anything on the board. And so when they go to add something Technic with the length of the telescope or whatever, they had already built around it, and they were having. I mean, I've done that too. I've built something. I'm like, oh, I need to go back in there, and you can't do it. You just really have to shred that thing and get down in there, and that may have been what they needed to do. So they didn't start building their Technic support on the board until I think too late, and I think that got them. Welcome to Dana. Dana, how are you this evening?
I am enjoying my birthday, watching Lego Masters, having a beer, building some Mandalorian, sweating it a little bit there at the end. I'll tell you, I was like, no, this can't happen.
By the way, happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Coke Zero for you and for me. Yeah.
Did you get a birthday card from AARP?
No, I got another year for that.
Dude, I am 5 years away from a retirement village. I'm kind of freaking out about that because when I see 55 plus, I'm like, oh, I'm on the north end of that right now.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, that I don't think I'm going to get to retire till like I'm 72 or something like that. So
right.
I got years.
I'm retired. I got to retire. I had to get laid off
you're
to
a
do it.
lucrative government contractor, so you know.
Yeah, I'm a working man. I'm a working stiff. I'm gonna be, I'm gonna probably go to lunch and then I'll die or something like that.
All right, so let's get back. We're going through the bill. So the girls first. That we're talking about
Former Castle Bro. You should put that underneath there.
former
Yeah. Former Castle Bro.
Bro.
Castle Bro. In perpetuity. I don't know. Anyway, so their build was very good. They communicated cardboard. They even put packing peanuts, the white packing peanuts, which was a neat detail down there. There were a lot of. It was almost a Tyler Kleitz type build that they had going on, but even though it did communicate that a kid had built a challenge, it didn't. To me, one of the problems was it didn't make sense for that to be on the side of a cliff,
Right?
And above water. Who's this guy's parents, right? Unless they've got some flooding in this house they're selling and moving out of, and then they're going to have some insurance problems.
The endangerment issues going on there.
So I think just in the challenge part, that's where they messed up. Their build was quite good, and we've all been talking about they've been our sleeper team.
So
If totally.
they had been on Lego Masters Australia, where story is everything, or at least a huge part of moving on, they would probably have moved on, because this season 2 has been technical, and story has mostly been minimized. It's it's one of the most stark things about season 2 is just how de-emphasized story has been.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put that now. They had all the details, but it was kind of obvious as their build was going along. I'm like, okay, somebody's really got to goof it for them to not be. And they said it was close and stuff like that. It kind of was close, but it wasn't close. I mean, we kind of knew.
Yeah, if you go by Fox formula, we didn't see a lot of Mark and Steven's build. They were really focusing on Zach and Wayne and really focusing on Natalie and Michelle. So that was already kind of like they're in the pass. Even at the halfway point. I don't even care how bad their build may or may not do or how well they do. They're going on regardless, just by that formula.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's step it to the next one, which is Mark and Steven's castle. Mark and Steven's castle. It almost seemed like, I don't know if y'all saw this. They were trying to like, do we go the furthest or do we not? I wonder if everybody looked over at the 6 foot long and they're like, we're out, and gave up. It kind of seems what they were doing.
Well, they were definitely going along the hey, go with our strengths thing, which they've been doing, and that's the way to go. That's the way to play at this point in time. Go with your strengths. Don't try to reinvent the wheel now. It's too late in the game, and that's kind of what hurt Natalie and Michelle because they didn't have a lot of technic background, so that was going to hurt them regardless. Where the guys, they're kind of the same way. They're not big technic builders, so they went with their strengths. But even though they went with their strengths, I've seen them do much better builds than that. Unless they just got overly conscious of the technique. Maybe it was the burnout again. I mean, we keep tacking that on every episode here at the end that they're getting burnt out. They're getting burnt out. But I mean, I've seen them do much better stuff like that on a whim, on a weekend that they brought parts with them to a show and it says, we're going to build a thing. So it was really strange. It was really strange.
Part of it's that challenge of building on a side of a cliff too, like building on a string. You have a castle and you almost have to do a subset, and if it's technical at all, make sure you're pinching all those points and then set it on there. And I saw from the video that even some of the basic roofing that they had, Mark and Steven had, wasn't connected completely.
Like it was just resting.
It was clutched on one, like they pinched it on one side, but they couldn't pinch it on the other side.
Oh.
The other thing,
we'll have to go back for the replay.
The other thing that stood out to me about Mark and Steven
with white brick, that really showed.
they usually do great on color, and I thought their colors were bad. And it pains me to say this because I watched them, just as Daniel talked. They showed up at a convention and built this amazing church like in 6 hours. So I know, and their color was great. So I know that they're fully capable, but I just thought the color choices were uninspiring and they didn't work well with each other. And I was kind of like, they just look like they were off this
was
chart.
it? Yeah. Now, when they zoomed in on that, to me, it looked all like light gray or white. I couldn't tell what color it was.
White.
Then when they finally zoomed in on the camera,
white.
Yeah. The moment zooming on the camera, you could see the one color, and then there were 2 shades of blue, and then the other colors. It didn't pop on TV, I don't think, the way it did in person. And I think flags.
They had flags that were red with yellow dot patterns on them, so they didn't really match the blue roofing. And then you had the red dragon, right? So I think maybe it was the blue contrast that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they were wanting to do the castle so muted so that the red dragon would pop. If they could have put a light in that thing, that would have been really, really cool in the dragon, since they made it all transparent.
I thought the dragon was too small.
It could have been bigger, and I think, and that was kind of, and I can't remember whether it was Amy or Jamie who said, if they'd had wings popping out somewhere to give more to the scale of the dragon, because that head was kind of small. But again, we're nitpicking here. It's we're slamming on time, slamming on trying to work on how do we keep this thing off of this wall. Now, granted, that's all to be said because it's Lego Masters.
It's their strength.
Well, no, but that's just it.
Yep.
it is and it isn't, because it was, hey, you got to figure out how to make this thing work off the side of this wall. If they had said, hey, here's 4 base plates, build a castle, they'd have been done in half the time.
Yeah, but that doesn't explain their poor color choices.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And maybe they were hemming and hawing on it. I think that, the contrast to the dragon may have been a big factor.
Yeah.
Whatever they could get to make that dragon pop a little more. But then they phoned it in on the rest of the details around the castle. I
will say for storytelling like the dragon was, and they came up with that right away. That idea of like using, you're on the side of a cliff, so more of that big dragon is inside coming out was a great storytelling piece.
Yeah. They also, and I don't know how much time, it probably didn't take them any time to all, they built their figures. They did not,
they didn't use
minifigs, which minifigs are a time saver, but they may have the philosophy that I thought of. One of the things that when Tyler won last year, the builds that were his weakest were minifig scale. The ones that were his strengths was when he built characters and everything. And their characters were kind of in between a little bit. I thought they were great. But, I wonder if they were using that philosophy and everything. But I'll tell you this, and then see if you see it. Steven looked worn out. Did anybody notice that?
Oh, they both did. They were getting crabby with each other. That for me right there was a huge signal that things are not, that they're not doing well if they're griping at each other. Because Chris, you've joked about the fact that they could have the worst thing happen to you or them or whatever, and they were like, "We're doing good, everything's fine." They were visibly shaken just in general, and this was their gimmick, and they were. I really think that it was the stress and the time and just the burnout that was dogging them. Truthfully,
is it harder when it's your favorite thing to do, but they limit you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
They're used to building in compression, and they had to build an opposite way, and I think that was a real. It leveled the playing field for sure, for everybody. I think because they're such experts in it.
That's what I'm saying. If they'd had a base castle,
it'd
have been no brainer. But at the same time, though, you're right about that pressure of having to live up to your legend, and that is always an Achilles heel. I can recount several times of different occasions where I have seen that bite someone every time. They would have been better if they had said, "Hey, do a space build." They would have done better. I think. Granted, at the same time, I'm still leaning on the fact that they were burnt out and there was a lot of fatigue and stress going on.
Could we have built a Nexonite space castle?
That would have looked good coming out of the side of a cliff.
That would look cool. All right. So, anybody else comment on the Erickson Brothers build? Yeah, go ahead.
So I've watched other reality shows to agree with Dana that they had some particular week where the challenge was supposedly right up the strength of the alley of a particular contestant or a team of contestants, and it is absolutely right. Like half the time when it's quote unquote someone's wheelhouse, they flub it, or they try to go too big, or they play it too safe, and they don't win the challenge. And everybody was, looking over at so and so in the contest, expecting them to run away with it. And there's just something about, I don't know, the expectations or other people who it's not their strength, maybe feel liberated to just go for it and do something and go out there and challenge themselves. And maybe in some ways it's a weird kind of burden that you have this whole background and you're thinking, well, I already did that before. I don't know. I don't know what, but I've seen it appear in multiple reality shows where, or I don't really like reality, but I'll call them skill building shows where strengths don't always play out for the contestant that's favored going into them. So
well, castle's a big theme, so But
Yeah.
they're not alone, right?
Well, for them to be, it's like, okay, you can do this, but you can only do it left-handed. Well, for everybody, if they're used that when you have a rhythm of how you do something that you normally do, and that rhythm is off, you actually get spun into more of a danger zone than somebody who's like, oh, I don't know how to do this really, so I'll make this up as I'm making this other up on the same time. So that I think that I bet you about halfway through that build, they're like, what the heck? Why isn't this flowing the way it's supposed? We should just be able to breathe and this happens, and maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't want to speak for them. Their build was amazing. It was awesome, but
and that actually causes even more stress and more anxiety when it's not going how you expect it to go.
Yeah.
And when you're used to it, so that probably was like even more of a thorn in the side of like, we should be killing this. What's going on? And it starts causing doubt and I would not want to have been in that situation. Yeah.
No. All right, so let's move. The next build would be the Droopy Bridge, the Caleb and Jacob's bridge,
the collapsing bridge.
The collapsing bridge.
I want to call it the I Need Cialis Bridge. But,
oh man. Okay.
Should they got some little blue diamonds and little pills? Anyway.
I texted.
That means nothing.
I texted a couple of you, and I was like, "Great! It reminds me of something that. Oh, you guys did a great job. it reminds me of a male impotence TV commercial."
That was the elephant in the room. I will say that. I mean, you have to think. Although the Erickson boards probably didn't think that, but somebody had to go, dude. Do you know what that looks like? Anyway.
Well, because there are a bunch of 40-year-old men who are basically 10-year-old boys inside looking at that and going,
all right, so let's talk about their build though. So they were a level above the Castle Bros. They became the new Castle Bros. What did they do that made them go a little bit over the top?
I'll say this before we answer that question. I'll say that if they had also been the greatest length, they still would have beat them. If the length was not an issue, they would have been number one.
Yeah.
Because the design was good, the aesthetics were good, the story was good. It was actually a full package, and it was very surprising. I was ready to see those guys home.
Do not say that. With what we just talked about, okay? You can't.
Rich, I tip my proverbial hat to you on that comment. Well done, sir. Well done.
I'll try to reel it in. So usually they have
the fish on the end.
Right?
There you go.
They have two top teams usually, and then they award who's the best of the best.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that. They just said these guys are in the top with also the longest, and these guys are in the bottom, and they didn't really say who was better. I would agree with Rich. If you were to grade the top two teams, Caleb and Jacob would have been winning a gold brick or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I was expecting them to go home weeks ago. I was expecting them to go home weeks ago.
They had a low
really
point
pulled it out.
Yeah.
The other thing that stands out is they had the most castle-y story. I mean, there's a joust going on the bridge thing.
And the colors. I mean,
the color was good.
Yeah, that hit me right off the bat when they started when they showed us during the finale, and they were showing. I'm like, where Mark and Stevens was like, it was very kind of drab and bland from a color perspective, and maybe they were going with that because they were trying to keep it more aesthetic to Castle or whatever. But the twins, they freaking brought out the right colors and the right scheme. It flowed. It felt good. It was a good contrast with the wall
technique.
I was like, I was right there. I'm like, wow, they won that they won this competition, and now I'm worried that Mark and Steven are going home.
Well, and they played well when if you looked at those towers that they built, those were just plated, framed out things, or even and hollow structures and stuff. They weren't very heavy. They just had a lot of height to them. So they made a really good decision there in what they did. and they made a bunch of those in different heights. They were almost the same design, the little towers, and made a nice little village there. That burned them in the last episode because their buildings were too kind of plain, so they stepped that up.
Yeah.
But so I mean, they built. Anybody else on that? We'll talk about negatives maybe of that build. I don't know if we can pick a lot of them out, but
I mean, I think they could have left the fishermen off and just had it as a collapsing. They could have still had a collapsing bridge thing.
Yeah, but that was part of. It was an integral part of their story.
Yeah,
I was going to say, why is it collapsing?
Yeah. And I agree, because it added that little bit of storytelling at the bottom that if it was just that where the sidewalk ends and poop, we were gone and the story ends. But because down at the bottom we had this fisherman with this big fish on the bottom, it brought us all the way to the end of the build. So I completely disagree with you, Matt.
Did anybody think the fish was a little diminutive for the build? I kind of wish the fish had like a bigger, but I mean, you don't want to break the thing. I mean, I get that. So
time, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. If they could have made it bigger and had it in the water coming out, that would have been good, but they may have run out of time. So they chose something that wasn't going to.
I'm sure there was a.
Stop it.
Uncut.
Yeah. I'm sure there was an unaired rule that you couldn't have your bridge also connected to the water.
Maybe.
Probably.
If you touch the water, that's like another support.
Yeah, that's true. Hope Castle was talking about that too. Well, I will say this: the one thing though is they carried a little bit of a build design out to on the bridge, and then when they got to the point where it was starting to fall over, it just became plain bricks and everything. It would have been nice to see them kind of put some, use some slopes to make some cracks. Although, I mean, I get it. I couldn't have done that, I don't think. But they didn't really focus on the base of theirs. Mark and Steven did use the base. They built ships. They built all this really cool stuff. Was there anything at the base of the fish? I mean, I can't remember.
Other than the fish, that was all they really did down there at the bottom.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. But
as opposed to where like Natalie Michelle had a box of packing stuff and everything.
It was neat. It really was neat. All right. So anything else? Any other commentary on their build, which I thought was great. I mean, it was the best in show.
Yeah,
for sure. And that's about 3-4 out of the last 5 or 6 builds. That's what those guys have put forward, even if they haven't gotten the award or not.
So let's talk about the Twins for a second. So they struggled early on, and they had a couple close calls early on. So is this a case of they're young and we're watching them grow, or did they just get their stride, or they get their confidence? Like confidence can be especially when you're under a lot of pressure, confidence can be huge. So was it that they knew how to build and they just weren't confident, or that they're actually maturing on television? What do you think's going on there?
I think all of the above. I mean, all of those things are possible and accurate. Yeah.
If you ask Mark,
I was going to answer the same way.
I think if you ask Mark and Steven, it's like they're Energizer bunnies. They don't wear out. I mean, I don't know what the age difference is, but there's a couple years. I mean, when you start sliding mid-20s, you really start feeling old. These guys are 19 and 21.
Yeah.
They just have more juice. They can get 3 hours of sleep, get up in the morning, have a Jolt Cola. Do they still make Jolt Cola? I don't know. But
ironically, they do. They do. You can find it.
A Red Bull or whatever, and they're ready to go. Whereas Mark and Steven, even though they are quite young, they could be my kids. Yeah. They also, on the flip side of that, I mean, they've been talked about on here is it was really wearing on them. It was wearing on them when they built the dragon, because that's why they built the burnout dragon, because that was how they were feeling. So, and there's another thing. They're feeling burnout. They're feeling worn out. They get what could you do their favorite challenge. They're handicapped in it, and so it's got that psychological warfare on them. So, but props to to Caleb and Jacob for rocking that out. They've been great on that. All right. Anything else about them? And let's move over to the length winner. You can't not.
The engineers.
Yeah, the engineers. So
Engineers.
I would have loved to have really gotten a close up of the technic aspect of what they did. Jesse, did you notice that? Could you tell?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I saw some technic aspects, and they were plating to like hold stuff together. So they were not, not just building. You saw a lot of this going outward, but they were also Jamie's technique. He said, box it in with basic bricks. Mm-hmm. They were at least plating the stuff that they were interlocking.
Were they plating with pins, or were they using brackets? I wish I could. Like I said, okay, we didn't get to see the technique. I wanted to see the technique.
Yeah, that part.
They were not. They never got any closer that you could see what they were doing, whether they were doing brackets or whether or not they were doing pins through the Technic beams. You just couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So when the show first started and they showed the limited studs that they would have to attach to the wall, yeah. The first thing that popped into my mind is if you can really anchor those top connection points, gravity will push it against at the bottom, right? Because you got this thing sticking out and gravity's going to want to pull it down. And so if you build that solid down to the bottom, you don't even have to connect it to the wall at the bottom. Gravity's going to push it up against that wall. You just have to lock down. All the weight is going to be borne by those top connection points. And so when Jamie was illustrating different ways of, using just those two studs, but then wrapping it so that it can't pop out, that's the same thing I was thinking of at home. This was actually one of the few challenges where I thought I think I could have done okay because I know how to lock down.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, without the lockdown, Lord help you if you bumped it. Because
I wonder what the brick difference. I wonder what the brick difference was between the attachment bricks. Was it going to be easy, snot, and Technic, or because those things are built by Brandon Griffith and Nathan Sawaya, are they? I can't remember who all is in the background building that stuff. I mean, would have been funny is to know the snot rule and just put those bricks off one more brick to make it a little extra hard. Just as a little you want to make sure this is 4 bricks between the snot. No, it's 5. So you just deal with that, and then you're like, crap, I gotta go all the way down this brick and come back up. That would have been funny.
The equation is 5 plates to 2 studs, and it doesn't really matter where you put that if you know what you're doing.
That's true.
So they could have played games and that'd have been fine and be like, okay, now I know what I need to do to overcome whatever foolishness that you did.
Or if they, instead of them all being in a row, they would have been in a row, and then this one's down like a plate, and then that would have been.
But you know what though? Unless you're like Moto or Brahm and you got that locked in, I would have been fine because I typically, I know you talk about, if I've got the Lego math and I've got all that, you got a power flux there?
I did. So there's a little storm. If all of a sudden I leave, I'll try to end the broadcast.
So, I know that, brick, plate, brick is the standard if you're going to do snot with a plate that's going to fit in. But sometimes you just build. And then, you reach some point and you're like, oh, I need another snot here. Oh, I'm going to put a plate in or drop a brick. I think people would have just gone on the fly with that. I don't think they would have been locked into the math as much as a problem.
You don't have a snot roller handy?
Nope.
I'll tell you this. I put out monorail this past weekend, and I've been probably a stud off in a couple places on my base plate.
Hey, Rich, I've known you for 20 years, and you've been a stud off.
On my base plate, yeah.
Walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did.
Sure
you did.
But after a certain portion of length, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be that accurate when you start talking mega lengths.
So what you're saying is length doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
This week's Lego Masters sponsored by Viagra.
Oh my gosh. You're killing me.
Or what is those new chewies, the gummies that I keep seeing on Facebook? I don't know. Ashwagandha.
Yeah.
Ashwagandha. That's what it is.
What are you searching for on Facebook? You get that?
I have no freaking clue how that showed up in my search pattern. I don't know. Not a clue. Maybe it's on my birthday was coming up. I don't know.
All right, let's see. Any negatives though to the winning length build? Jesse, what do you think? Any negatives to that build?
I mean, the Brickmasters already hit on it. You know, there's this big glaring yellow stud on the side of the wall. They could have just put gray rock over it and hit it. And if there wasn't something clever, you should have probably, you know, it's like showing the, you know, using prime colors on the inside of your mountain, and you can see inside like there's a crack, something you didn't cover. And
do you think they left them as a pride point to go, hey, we didn't even use them all? I mean, I really wonder.
Could have been. Yep. And
yeah,
if that
and then they got dinged for it verbally.
Yeah.
I think the issue with Zach and Wayne is all season is lack of story. I mean, the guys know how to build, and they can build big, and they can build technically, but it always comes up short in artistry. And you know, there's just the little lack of polish compared to the other. I mean, at this point, you know, I would put Mark and Steven and the twins ahead of them because they have both the technical and the artistry side. I just feel like Zach and Wayne are just always a little short on the artistry end of it.
They are technical builders, and they do very well at it. But I think their build was too simplified.
Well,
after you get past the technical balance there.
But that was their gamble. That was their gamble. We're going to go long, and that's going to put us into the top. They went around to make sure they were already the longest, and they're like, okay, we can coast now that we've got this long.
I understand that, but that was not my point. They knew that they could get the technicality of the longest projection off the cliff and be in the top three. But when you talk about how they build, there is, you know, it's back to the pig house or the house pig.
True.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about their builds. Their first build was in the dragon, the movement, the first drag. It was lovely, and it was technical, and it was amazing. Their second build was it the hats? Was the hats the second build?
No, I think there was a third build. But keep going.
But they had the shake one. The shake was.
It would be interesting to take the three teams that are left and rank them on like overall, what kind of points they have.
Right. Well, remember, Zach and Wayne were almost in the top two, almost I think as much as anyone. I mean, they were like either them or Mark and Steven. Actually, I think they were in the top two more than Mark and Steven. Yeah. Through the whole season.
And their hat was aesthetically lovely and also technic, but it seemed like the art side, like you're saying, the technic side stayed, but the art side started to fade on them because, I mean, I did not like their mashup animal because I thought, although Mark and Steven said it was impressive in person, and I'm sure it was TV, but it looked a bit of a mess. And then the pig to me looked a lot of bit of a mess. So it seems like, that part of their builds may have been sliding. Their technical ability to make things do and move, or the link thing, amazing. I mean, I give it amazing, more super props. But I think as we have seen the Jacob and Caleb go up in their not only technical but also in their artistry, they've learned to play the game. The other teams may have gotten tired and are losing their game a little bit, and so those twins might pull this thing off.
Yeah,
you know what? I agree. First and foremost, I want to read. I know we're beating a dead horse in this one. I wonder if Zach and Wayne were also feeling a little bit of the crunch and a little bit of the tired, because I know talking to Mark and Steven on multiple occasions in the last several episodes, and you know they're spent, they're wiped. These are 12-hour days or longer, and you know, and it's back to back. I mean, I know I've worked 12-hour days back to back. By the third day, I'm like, don't call, don't text, don't do nothing. I'm out.
Yeah.
And they're still going. So I gotta imagine that if you were to ask Zach and Wayne, they would be like, we just wanted to build something long and that was it. We didn't care. I would almost guarantee that would be a comment that would come out of their mouths.
Yeah.
That's also how ship timber always ends. Just 100 studs. I'm good.
It's not good. It's long
By the
enough.
way, I've started. I'll show you in just
It's
a second.
uncut. I'm good.
Well, and the other thing about Zach and Wayne is, they play to win the game. So
Yes.
if you were longest, you advance.
Yeah.
No questions. It could have been ugly as
No
sin,
judgment.
and you're still going to advance. And so they understood that. What's kind of weird, or not weird, but funny, is that in effect, anybody who could have built the longest had the golden brick this week.
Basically.
You got a free golden brick if you were the longest one.
Yep.
And my
Absolutely.
favorite part of the entire episode that got no commentary at all was when one of the twins comes over and measures Mark and Steven's bridge and walks away. And I turned to Thompson like, did he just go measure the rival bridge? And he's like, yeah, he did. And they didn't like draw attention to it. Like if you were casually watching, you might not even realize, but they were like eyeing each other to the point of measuring each other's bridges. So I'm assuming if they went over and measured Mark and Stevens, they probably also went over and measured, Zach and Wayne's. I don't know. But
Well, Zach and Wayne, I think, granted, it depends on the editing, but it looked like Zach and Wayne were the ones who were measuring everybody's builds first.
Could be.
Because they were like, they threw out the 6 feet from the get-go, and they're like, all right, that's our goal. We're going to go 6 feet. And everybody else was like, we're going to go aesthetics.
Yeah.
If you guys are going to go 6 feet, we're not going to go 6 feet 1 inch or 6 feet 1 stud. We're not going to throw some Sandlin extenders on the end of our bridge.
I was about to say it. If that had been a space build, I would have had a 10-foot antenna, like another extra antenna just to snap on the end.
Which
I would have been
like
the
the
Chrysler
Sears-
building.
When the Sears Tower put that extra tall tower after some other building eclipsed it for the tallest.
Yeah,
building,
I don't know why anybody didn't think to put spires out to go further to try and get that 6 feet just to smack, those guys on the mat. He's like, yeah, you got 6 feet, but we got 6 feet 1 stud because we did the Sandlin extenders and boom, booyah.
You could have waited for
You could take a row of plates and put them on their side like that, and you could go a long just 100 extra studs, and it ain't going nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So.
And again, we don't know the full details on the rules. There may have been, if you go out, you've got to build off of it, yada, yada, yada. There could have been something, but if there wasn't, then I would say that there was a missed opportunity to just say, hey, my build is 6 foot 1 inch.
You could have been like that
Except
annoying.
for Caleb and Jacob, because they had already decided they were going to.
They were going to go floppy,
Take
which would have
it
been
down.
even funnier if you had gone longer than them with the flop, including the downward flop. Like, hey, Caleb and Jacob, if you had straightened your bridge out, you'd have been as long as ours.
That would have been great. It would have been. I don't know how the girls would have done it, but they kind of probably knew that they were not aesthetically better builders from these guys either. They could have gave it a shot to stretch that thing out.
Imagine that in the last 5 minutes, Caleb, they went, haha, fooled you. Actually, our bridge pulls back up and it's straight. Now it's the longest one.
That would have been that would have been a game changer. That would have been
diamond button.
Yeah.
Oh, you thought it was the wilting bridge? Well, it's not.
Or if that had like an effect,
A little blue
like
crystal and drop in. And
like they had a crank in there, and I was like, "Oh, let's turn this crank and click, 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 click." Oh, that would have been the bomb, and it would have been 6 feet. Oh yeah.
Did you notice that the cliffs actually had a row of studs on the top? Because I don't know if they were already there or somebody put trees at the very tip top. What if you could have rigged something? I'm sure there was the rules against.
You weren't allowed to. They were very explicit. You could only build off of the yellow 2 studs in the pattern there. That was it.
But you know what? I want
the top.
to know more about the nitty gritty on those details, because Mark or Chris, you're doing it. It's not even Monday, and I'm doing it again. Phone that one in, Doc Sampson. It's Monday. If all you had to do was length, I mean, you've got your castle, and then you just do this basic thing out the branch. with one set of bricks or one, what's the details? And this starts to get into the, hey, we're playing a reality TV show here. What loophole can we slide through if you don't tell us we can't? And maybe that comes with experience.
Could you have made a fire-breathing dragon with a fire that just sticks out forever?
It goes 6 feet, or or the bridge keeps going and it just starts breaking up, and it's like little tiny pieces, but it's still holding together and it's still part of the bridge.
I'm just wondering. You could have done a half a bridge, just on the arch, half an arch, and worked it from the very bottom, but not touching.
Yep.
And just brought it out with side paneling plates, and had all that strength that Tyler Kleitz had.
Yeah.
And
use the bridge building
just off
techniques.
the sides, built on different little castle spires.
Yeah.
Maybe it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and you could have gone forever.
Well, to a point. But you probably could have easily done 6 feet with just that.
Yes.
And because hey Adam, and because what Tyler and Amy was it Amy? Is it Amy? Tyler and Amy showed is that you don't have to do Technic if you do solid brick construction, snots on the side, plate them in to keep that consistency. I mean, I've seen some amazing builds that have been really sturdy by just using 2x4s or 2x up the sides with snot plates, locking it in. You don't need Technic. You could have gone all the way. But again, I can't. I'm going to beat this dead horse. We need a dead horse kicking gif, Chris. I think that people's creativity or thinking outside the box was really limited because of fatigue and tired and just being spent. I'm throwing that out there as the catch-all for everybody. What coulda, woulda, should they have done?
Yeah, I want to put that caveat out there. And this season compared to last season, and probably season, well, who knows the way COVID's going right now, but this season was filmed differently than others, the first one, because it had more contestants, a much shorter time, and they were sequestered. Yeah. So their builds were squeezed in. It sounded like when they did builds for the first season, they filmed 3 days. They had the weekend off, all this kind of stuff. They could go visit the neighbors, they could go, to the mall.
They could de-stress. They could unwind. Yeah. They could recharge their batteries.
Not in this. They are in a prison camp with a caterer. I mean,
this was like Lego Master Survivor. Because they were basically on an island and no break.
They had to hew their own bricks out of the living rock and
getting that machine to
So if they really needed a reset, Mark and Steven should have just phoned it in last episode and took a nap during the show.
See, that would have been a perfect time to use the golden brick, but I think their hubris got the better of them, and they were like, "No, we can do this. We want to go out, show them what we can." But that's that. But Jesse, that's the gray on the side of our temples that's saying this is how I would have done it because I'm playing the long game because I've got wisdom and experience that says I can phone this one in. I'm doing it.
Yeah, free pass.
Yep. That's right.
Take a nap.
Absolutely.
Zach and Wayne's build, his tribute to his friend was a very nice touch to that. You have mostly seen, to me, I've seen Zach and Wayne as I've seen them in live streams. They're very personable and stuff. They've just seemed all business this whole season. So it was nice to see their heart a little bit. I know that was a painful thing for them, but also cathartic to build that as a tribute to their friend. So that was really cool. Although it got me worried for them because a lot of times they'll play that sob story and that's the folks going home, right? Because the couple who they're pretty amazing. The couple that were on there were talking about adopting and then they kicked off the show. I'm like, thanks, that was nice. that was terrible.
Well, so again, Zach and Wayne, I think the reason we saw enough of their build because they had that human interest touch story.
Oh yeah.
Because otherwise, once they hit that 6 foot and their castle and their Chinese castle was able to fit in the middle and it didn't move and everything was cool,
they were done.
They're done.
Tacking little easy trees on the side.
Yeah,
But the motorcycle, yeah, the guy that was a cool.
Yeah.
thing to put
No, that
right
was a
on
nice
the
little
edge,
touch.
too.
But you know, when they zoomed in on that curve in the front,
That looked good.
it was good, but it was really gappy and stuff. It looked good on TV, but if you were going to see that in a show, you're like, hey man, you got gaps in there. You can fill that in with some whatever. That's one of the magics. That's one of the things that was a downfall for the brothers, the Erickson brothers, is their castle didn't look good on TV. And for them, you know, those little small gaps and stuff didn't show up until they got really close. So it looked good on TV. So
speaking of getting emotional, I was commenting at our house that every time it's Amy's turn to announce who's going home, her voice always shows up. Like she cracks. And yeah, I mean, Jamie's like, you know,
get out.
Like, you guys are done. It's tough, but you're done. You know,
he's like he'll help. No, it's time to go.
Crack a little.
He's all business.
Heard Jamie crack a little bit.
He did.
Man, I don't think that Jamie's. I think that's his defense mechanism.
Could be.
Because you know, hey, if I don't have to keep talking about this for very long, I'm good. But if we keep this going on for too long, I'm gonna start crying and it's gonna be horrible.
Dude, I still remember when that guy showed up with his mom at his first convention. Okay, when I see Jamie, I'm like, that's a little squirt that was there with his mom. By the way, Jamie, if I make it on the show, I'd call you a squirt. Anyways,
but before they announced at our house, I was like, it's the two ladies who are going home, and Amy's going to have to announce it. I was like, you know that she's a big fan of them, and she'd probably like to see at least one female make it into the final. And this is, you know, just tough. And it was pretty obvious it was tough on her. And then when they thanked her for being a female that works at Lego for daughters across the Lego building world, you know, and I was like, they're going to make her cry on national television.
Yeah. if you didn't tear up a little bit, you're dead inside. I mean, that was just a moment. I mean, I was like
big of Natalie to mention that for all the girls that are you know
absolutely
trying to come up in this world, and
tension between the characters as well. I wonder if Zach and Wayne are as close to the other teams as I think the twins and the Ericksons are actually buddies. They've known each other, I think, before. Yeah, and I think they've known Zach and Wayne too. But you know, you got it when you're coming down to it. It's like, I love you, brother, but that's $100,000. Screw you, you know, that kind of thing.
Game on next week. Game on.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in your 20s, or I'm assuming that the Ericksons are getting close to 30. I don't know exactly what their age is, but can you imagine getting $50,000 pre-tax at that age? Like, I was like, you could like put a down payment and buy a house, or Thomas is like,
or pay up start a business,
or if you're married, you just get it all.
Yeah.
Good point.
But again, siblings, you know.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But you know, then after taxes though, you only get like $25,000. But I mean, that's a new car, but still,
it's 50%. Okay.
Unless you donate it to like a sibling, and then you don't have to pay taxes as a one-time.
You set up a tax-free foundation that then loans you a car.
Right.
Yeah.
Create a corporation that's, you know, an LLC with the money. I digress. But hey, you know what? We are getting close, and I don't want to
old gray tax planning.
We're getting close, and I want to touch on this because this is one of my favorite things that they do is they give us a teaser about next week.
Yeah.
Did you see the lighting?
Yes. So lighting
that looked very similar to some lighting we have seen in another mock that has shown up at 2 conventions.
I did see that.
Yep. I think I saw something like that at Brick Fair. It was quite nice.
Yes. You couldn't really. They were nice enough to give us a little bit of the lighting, but they didn't show us the rest of the build. So I am really looking forward to seeing what they build, and it really sings out to me that the prophecy from 4 episodes ago that those boys are going home with that prize.
All right, so let's go ahead and say it. Who wins next week? I say the Ericksons. I'm voting the Ericksons. That's
Yep.
me.
Mark and Steven.
For multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Jesse, you're gonna concur, or are you gonna throw out a wild card on us?
Yeah, I'll be Aquafina and vote against those and go for the Caleb and Jacob.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I mean,
Now
I
that
think
being
Caleb,
said, though, that would not. I mean, if it's going to be a build, something that you want to build, and we've talked about this through this evening, that Zach and Wayne would not be the top because we've criticized their competency of storytelling and going out of their bounds. They're technical builders, and next week is build whatever you want, make it spectacular.
Make it about you. I think they have to make it about them. I think. Yes. I don't know. Anyway.
So Caleb and Jacob, I think, are going to do well in this. And Mark and Steven are going to be doing exceptionally well. Excuse me. That was a hiccup at the same time. Well, I'm going to, here I am.
When you hit 49.
exceptionally well.
So Jesse, that would be a good long shot wild card bet. I think Vegas would be good odds on that one.
Right.
But again, I'm still going to go with the Ericksons for sure. So
I will say that across the board, I would say these teams are closer in skill level than last season. Although Boone and Mark and
Boone's ears are burning right now.
I was going to say,
trust me, when it came down to the end, I couldn't judge. I had who I was pulling for, but I liked all three teams at the end. You kind of knew you had a bottom and then the two, and their skill level.
You know what though? I was really surprised by that Peacock.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I didn't see that coming at all. But when they got to just let roll up their sleeves and let the hair down and go crazy, we got something great from them. So who knows?
Which raises the question:
it seemed like all along,
is it truly what you build the last week, or is there a season legacy of, Hatmaker and his partner's name I'm spacing on? Like, they were not winners that often.
Dave and Richard.
Dave and Richard. No. I'm talking about season 1.
Oh.
Samuel and the female whose name I'm spacing on.
Yes.
Based on season-long accomplishments, they were not in the top 2.
Right.
But if they had just nailed it, the final challenge, do they win? They walk away with it, even if they struggled in early.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't matter what your legacy through the challenge was. It's how you do on that final competition.
Yep. Yeah. I've seen that a couple times with something like Face Off.
Yeah.
Jesse, what were you struggle. And
I was going to say good money would be to bet on Zach and Wayne also, because judging from the first episode, what they built, how fast, it's almost like they knew what they were going to build that episode. Like they knew. So I'm guessing if they were to make the finals, they already know what they're going to build.
And well, they all do. I bet you they all, if you had Tyler from last season, they kind of had a plan going in. This is our final build. We're going to build this, whatever. So they had that. I'm sure they've got that goal in mind and everything. It'd be interesting to find out how much time they get maybe to rest up.
So I'm sure they also have motion on top of the lighting, but I'm glad I don't know. It's been a really wild ride with this season based on gravity, letting a lot of the engineering guide people through. And now in the final, instead of build whatever you want, you actually have to do
lighting.
World of Lights. Let's see World of Lights.
Which Lego doesn't sell at this point.
I was about to say, are those non-official Lego parts in the Lego Masters finale? Oh my goodness!
It looks like non-official lights.
It'd be interesting to see.
Unless they've given them the RC cars and things like that, and so they are breaking the mold and doing some different things.
Because Lego, as far as I know, Lego doesn't sell explosives,
right?
Yet.
Yes.
Or like our friend Ant Bandit, whose wife found a bullet in a bucket of bricks before she.
Can't wait. I can't wait for the Duplo explosives. Oh wait, those are called diapers. Never mind.
Yeah, we need Duplo Masters. Duplo Masters would be awesome.
Duplo challenge would have been cool.
Yeah, that would be.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All right, guys, we are well past our hour. Well, not a whole lot, but thank y'all for joining us today. Jesse, thanks for dropping by. We appreciate y'all hanging out. Watch for an announcement where our show or Julian's show will be next week for the finale. There's going to be lots of broadcasts about that, I'm sure. So thank y'all for joining us. See us on Thursday at 8 o'clock for our
Can I
Thursday
do a
Night Live.
plug too?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'm a guest on Read with Hope Castle a lot, and he just created a new channel for Friday Night Bricks. So all you guys, if you have time on Friday, look for a new channel. Me and Larry Legend and Reed from Hope Castle are trying to carry his 3-year legacy Friday Night Brick show forward.
Cool deal. By the way, and don't forget, it is September. It is time for Ship Timber. So here we go.
Or if you're not so interested in building 100 slots long, you can build a friendship timber.
That's right.
As well, which I'm actually going to try and do since I recently got a whole bunch of funky colors to play with. So I might actually do a friendship timber.
Is the friendship timber, is it the 100 stud length, or is it just any spaceship?
Oh, no. Nope. It just needs to be a spaceship friends theme, whatever you want.
Okay, I'll join in on that. I'll do that too. So.
I mean, you could probably film that in the weekend.
It could be something Star Warsy. Martin has made like ATST, Frenzy, things like that. It could have been. It could be Mos Eisley, friends.
I'm thinking Vic Viper friendship. Myself. That's what I'm thinking.
I think I have all the right parts. I think I have all the right parts for this particular.
I have an idea myself. I hope I get a chance to execute it amongst the rest of the stuff I'm doing. But yeah,
I've got some purple canopies, Chris, if you need them.
Oh, I got that friend set with the tubes that on clearance, so I could use that. So
yep.
All right, guys, thank y'all for joining us. Hope we'll see you. Catch us on Thursday. Catch Jesse and those guys on Friday. And thank y'all for joining us. It's been great. Have a great night, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.